Today, friends, is the promise day. I'm not crying. You're crying. No, seriously, I'm not crying. So if you are crying, you're doing it by yourself. But today is indeed the day, the launch day for the public beta of Notion's API. So that is what we're going to talk about in this video. We're going to kind of look at the possibilities and the capabilities of the API, specifically from the perspective of a non-coder, which is me and probably most of you watching. There are a lot of developers out there who have been aching to get their hands on this API, but a lot of other people want to know, what can I do with it if I don't know how to code? Now, if you don't know what an API is, number one, I'm surprised that you clicked the title of this video in the first place, but number two, it stands for Application Programming Interface, and it is essentially a way for an application to provide commands that other apps, external developers, can hook into, and with those commands can do really useful things and make multiple apps talk to each other and do really cool things. So for an example here that you're probably familiar with, Google Calendar can sync the events that you create over to Apple Calendar and vice versa. The way these apps are able to talk to each other and do this is by their respective APIs. So now with Notion having an API available for other developers to use, people can start to create external apps, and existing apps like Slack or Basecamp or Google Sheets, all kinds of stuff can start to provide integrations to actually talk to Notion, which means that you can have external apps actually do things to your Notion workspace, and vice versa. You can now have changes to your workspace affect other apps. And the possibilities here are literally endless, especially for developers. I think over the coming weeks and months, we're gonna see a ton of different integrations and apps being created to take advantage of this Notion API, but even if you are a non-coder, even if you're not a developer like me, you can start using the API today because there are a couple of different integrations that have been launched, one with Zapier, one with Automate.io, one even with Typeform, that let you start using the API to do some useful stuff that was not possible in the past. And that is exactly what we're gonna look at in this video. I've been spending the last few days playing around with the API and trying to do some useful stuff using these already existing no-code integrations. So specifically in this video, we're gonna look at creating a Typeform integration, getting some data from a Typeform over to a Notion database. We're gonna create a pretty useful email notes to Notion app where we can just simply email a note to a Notion database. And we're even going to create a mostly functional sync between a Notion calendar and a Google calendar. So buckle up, especially if you like long tutorials going over APIs, because this one's getting started. Well, hello and welcome back to me being in a circle on your screen. So what I want to do with the rest of this video is show you kind of how to start working with the API, especially if you're not a developer. I'm not a developer. I don't really know how to code that well anymore. I did a bit of web design back in high school and college, but when it comes to APIs, I have never touched the actual code that runs them for any tool. But I do have quite a bit of experience with no-code tools that allow you to work with APIs without having to touch code. So that's kind of what we're gonna go through in this video. And as you can see here on the screen, I have quite a few different databases that I've been using to run tests with the API with varying degrees of success. And I'm gonna end up showing you 3 different integrations that have worked pretty well, though the last one, which is gonna be a Google Calendar sync integration, has some caveats right now. So hopefully we'll have a better version of that developed in the future when the API gets some updates. But let's just talk about how to work with the API in the first place. Right away, I'll mention that there is developers.notion.com, where they have created this whole page where you can sort of learn about the API. You can go and find actual code examples. So if you are a developer and you understand stuff like this, you can check that out for reference. But there are also instructions on how to connect to different apps that have connected already with the API. If you want to develop your own integration, if you're a developer and you want to make your own app, you can go over to notion.so/my-integrations and you can add integrations here. When you do that in your workspace, if you go to settings and members, you're going to see this little integrations menu option down here at the bottom. And there you're going to see all integrations that have been added to your workspace. If you create one from this My Integrations page, it's going to show up here. But you'll also see that I have a couple, which I have not created from this integrations area. This is an internal area for people to develop their own integrations. What I actually have are one for Typeform and one for Automate.io, which is a very similar app to Zapier, I'm not sure how to say it, but it allows you to create connections between different apps using their respective APIs. So I have both of these, and what they've allowed me to do is create a few things that actually work. One thing that I do have working is a Typeform test where I can enter data into a Typeform survey, and then it will send the data over to Notion, which is pretty cool. I have a little app to email quick notes to Notion, and these actually do work, which is pretty sweet. And then I have a Google Calendar sync where I can add an event. I don't know why I put for King Kong here, but I did. But I can add an event to my Notion calendar, and I can actually have that sync over to my Google Calendar. Here it is, new Notion test for King Kong. Again, not sure why I typed that, but I did. So for the rest of this video, what I want to show you is a little bit of the under the hood inner workings of each of these integrations. Right now, this is launch day for the API. So there are a lot of limitations. There are things that I've already reached out to Notion support, to Automate.io support, to ask for some updates because there are some limitations and some things that need to be fixed. But we do have the ability to start playing around and seeing some of the possibilities that we're going to have with this API. And to start this out, let's talk about the 3 different tools that currently, at least Notion has said, have connections to the API. Those are Typeform, which gives you a very, very simple way to get content from Typeform over to Notion, and then Zapier, and Automate.io. I want to talk about those for a couple of minutes because they're very, very similar. Zapier basically lets you connect any app that they have support for to any other app. And there are triggers that will, trigger an app to do something and trigger your Zap or your little program to do something. And then there are actions, which will, do something with another app. Automate.io is also very similar. And you're going to see a lot of talk over the next coming weeks about which one is better. Right now, to my eyes, it seems like Automate.io has the better setup. There are a couple of reasons for that. If you look at the pricing page for Automate.io, if you want to have multi-action bots, which for adding stuff to Notion, you basically need to have multi-action bots instead of single-step bots. That's $10 a month. Versus over on Zapier, if you want to have multi-step zaps, then that's going to be double the price immediately. The other thing is when you look at what you can do with Notion and Zapier right now, when we look at Notion's triggers, the only thing we have is new database item created. Whereas over on Automate.io, if I create a bot here and I just select Notion, I have new item and I also have updated item. So at least as of today, Automate.io will let you do things when an existing page in a database is updated and Zapier won't. So at least right now, it seems like Automate.io has the upper hand and it's the one I've done extensive testing with. But I'm guessing like in the very near future, we're going to have these be sort of feature complete and pretty much equivalent. Just wanted to mention that up front. Before we get into Automate.io, I'm going to use it for my examples here because that's where I've actually done the work. Let's talk about the Typeform integration because it's probably the easiest one to understand and grasp. So over here, I have a little Typeform that I've created and I've got 4 different questions. What is your first name? What's your last name? What's your favorite pizza and why? And how old are you? And then if we go over to Notion, we can see that we're actually getting data from Typeform into this database here. So the way you would do that, if I go to connect, and why don't I just go ahead and delete this Notion integration now so I can redo it and show you how it works. If I hit connect here, and this is how it's basically going to work for any of these other apps. First, I have to authenticate Typeform, and then I need to authenticate Notion. And this is what you're going to see when you authenticate any other app that wants to connect to Notion. You're going to have Typeform wants to access the workspace that I have selected here. And I've got several different workspaces. So I'm going to do College Info Geek. And then it's going to ask, like, it wants to view in the pages you select, add new pages, view names and emails. Yes, 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 I want all that. Then you can assign it permission to access specific pages. So right now, all I want to do is give it access to Notion Test Ground, where I've done all of my API testing so far. So I'm going to allow access there. Now, one thing that you're going to see over here is if I go to share, notice from the breadcrumbs that this Typeform test is within Notion Test Ground. It has been granted access based on Notion Test Ground, the top level page permission. If I wanted to add it to a different page, I don't need to go and redo the integration. I could come over to, let's just say, a knowledge base. And if I wanted to share, I could invite, and I can see my integrations here. So I could add Typeform if I wanted to add it to another page of my workspace. That's pretty good to know. So let's go back here to our Typeform test. And now it says, could not load any database in Notion. I'm going to go ahead and refresh that, and it should be able to find it. Here we go. Select database. I'm going to do Typeform test. And now I can map my questions in Typeform to Notion. I have found that multiple choice questions don't currently send data to Notion. And in fact, it will cause a whole submitted survey to currently not even be sent to Notion. So right now, all I am using in my Typeform test are text properties and a number property. And with these, it does work. So let's go ahead and map our first name to first name. And we'll map our last name to last name, which is, I believe, the main field of the database. Favorite pizza, which is a long piece of text, but I have verified that it does work going into a text field. And lastly, how old are you? How old are you? So here's our mapping. And now if we go over here, we'll enter some dummy data. So I don't know, we'll name him Dummy McDummerson. He likes pineapple pizza because I like being wrong. And he is 15 years old. So I'll hit submit, and I have noticed that the Typeform integration is really fast. There it is, McDummerson, dummy, pineapple pizza, and the age. We can't currently access the page content with Typeform, but we can at least start filling out a database with survey results and things like that. So that's pretty useful. Let's talk about a couple of these other integrations. So this is the one that may be very useful to you right away. We have email notes to Notion. I've seen a lot of people wanting to do this. They want to be able to quickly open their email app, dash off a note, and get it into a specific Notion database. This is now possible. So with automate.io, we can first make sure that we've added the apps that we want. So I've got Notion added. We don't actually need to add email. I have the send email via Gmail here, but I'm not using it. There's a default app where you can just email a specific email address that automate.io gives you for your account, and then you can use that as a trigger. So here in my bots list, we have a script already set up called email new email. And I should probably have given that a more descriptive name. But if we come into it, we now see that we have a multi-step process here. And I'm going to build this for you. So I'm just kind of showing it at a glance, and then we're going to go build it from scratch. We have as the trigger their email app when a new email is received to a very specific email that you get as part of your automate.io account. And I'm going to keep that hidden from you because it's mine. We can add a new page in Notion, and then we can add page content. So let's go ahead and rebuild this. Create a bot. And the first thing we want to find is the default email app that automate.io gives you. The trigger is going to be new email received. And here you can click get email address. So if I click this, I'm going to blur it out, but it gives you an email address that is unique to your account. And if you email it, things are going to happen. It can be used as a trigger. So you can copy that to your clipboard. And what I would recommend doing is actually going into your email program and adding that as a contact. So then you can just quickly type a little short word instead of typing in that whole email. The next thing we need to do is select an action app. We're going to select Notion. I've already got the integration created, and we're going to hit add item page. And it has to be added into a specific database. Just to reiterate here, whatever database you choose needs to be within an area that your integration has been given permission to access in Notion. So here we've got email notes to Notion. The source, if we go ahead and look at what we have here, we have source email, and I want that to be added as a tag whenever I add things in here, because when I build this into my own more complex note-taking system, I want to be able to filter by notes that I have emailed myself. So we'll go ahead and just set that as email. And then name, you'll notice this little plus icon here. You can open this up and you can bring in any of these pieces of information from previously added triggers or even other actions if you're building a multi-step system or bot here. You can also drag. So let's go ahead and use the subject as the name. And you'll notice that one thing we can't do is add content to the page, which we need to do since we're emailing a note to Notion. This is why I needed to upgrade to the paid account here on automate.io so I could get multi-step bot access. It's the same story with Zapier. So we'll select Notion once more, and then we are going to add page content. And it says here, adds content to a specified page in a database. So this needs to be an existing page. And here we can take the page ID from our first action and drag it here so Notion knows which page to access. And now we can create content blocks. So all I'm going to do is create a paragraph. One limitation you're going to notice here, text length should be less than 2,000. This is a per block length limit, at least for the API. One issue that I've run into when I'm creating this integration here is that, as far as I know, there's no way for me to make automate.io split out text from a longer email into multiple blocks and then create them in Notion. That might be possible with actual code. So I would not be surprised if in the next month or two we see a real legit add from email to Notion app that splits things out once you do basically unlimited length. But for now, this is only going to be good for dashing off pretty quick notes to Notion that are under 2,000 characters. But anyway, for paragraph here, let's take the text body of the email and drag it there. And that is all we need to do. So we can hit save, turn the bot on, and now let's test it. So we have our email notes to Notion here. This is waiting for a test email. So I'm going to go over to my Gmail. You can see I've already sent one here. So I'm going to go ahead and compose again. And like I said, I've added a contact. So I can just type quick Notion note and it goes here. So let's do video test note to tell myself it's the one from when I was recording the video. And let's grab some dummy content from one of my CIG articles, paste that in there, and we'll go ahead and send. So now because we're testing the bot, it should tell you when it receives data, and then it'll show you step by step what it's doing. Once you just let the bot go live, you're not testing anymore, then things will just run in the background, and depending on what account you have, there is a refresh interval. On the lowest paid account, it's every 5 minutes. So when you email data to Notion, you're gonna have to wait 5 minutes. If you go up, you can get as low as, I believe, 2 minutes. And one thing that I'm noticing here is that this little thing is not updating, but if we look over at our email notes to Notion, our video test note has in fact arrived with the exact content that we sent. If you go over to Gmail, there is the exact one that we sent, and yep, it's in Notion. So that is a very, very simple integration that you can create using automate.io. I think you could also create this with Zapier. One thing you're not going to be able to create with Zapier at this very moment is a Google Calendar sync from Notion. So I spent basically all morning trying to get this working because it was the one thing that I really wanted to work. And what I have achieved is a one-way sync between Notion syncing to Google Calendar. So it's somewhat useful. What I really want is, perfect two-way sync between the two apps like Todoist has and TickTick has and things like that. I'm thinking that this is, again, another case where somebody's going to have to code a proper app to do it because I ran into a couple of things. But if we look here, I've got some of these Notion test events. And the way that I've achieved this is, number one, created myself a database called Google Calendar Sync. And I've got a calendar view here. I've also got a table view here. When this gets better, I'm probably going to do a more in-depth video tutorial, or at least a written tutorial or something, because this is something I know a lot of people want. But one thing I'll mention here is that we've got created time and edited time. You need these properties in a Google Calendar database because it needs to be able to know when a page was created and also when it was edited. Another thing I've noticed is as of this morning, automate.io cannot write to text properties in a database, specifically text properties. So at the very moment, if you want to do this yourself and you're very excited, I'm using the URL property in Notion because for whatever reason, automate.io has a bug where they can't access the text property. But it looks like URL properties do not do data validation because I've got Empire State Building here with spaces and it happily accepted it. So if you wanted to do this, I'm going to show all the stuff on the screen here without going too in depth about it. But if you want to do this, you can do it. So let's go over here. And we have add event, and we also have update event. Notice that we do not have delete event. This is one big current limitation. So at the moment, it is a one-way sync from Notion to Google Calendar, and you can't delete an event in Notion and have it be deleted in Google Calendar. The reason for that is, number one, there is currently no trigger called page deleted for the API, at least for automate.io's integration here. And secondly, when you delete a page in Notion, it does not update the last edited time property. So there's no way for automate.io to get triggered when you delete a page in Notion. So just keep that in mind. But if you just want to have a calendar in Notion where you're adding events, maybe adding tasks, and then they show up in your Google Calendar, it is currently possible. So if you look at add event here, and again, I'm going to gloss through this because it's pretty complicated. But essentially, when we have a new page created in a specific database in Notion, the Google Calendar Sync, which it asks for the created time here, first, we are waiting 30 seconds because I want to give the user time to add the details to that event. So let's go ahead and do it actually. And by the time I'm done explaining this, we'll be able to see this new event here. So let's call this video test event for P. Diddy. And we can go in here and add a date. So I'm going to go ahead and enable the end date and the included time. I am very much excited for the day that Notion adds dragging calendar event functionality and a week view, but that's coming at some point. Let's do 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. May 13th, which is today. And I'm going to go ahead and add Empire State Building. It's not that useful, but I have it in there. And I'll do some content here. Okay, so by the time I have finished explaining this add event integration here, this should be here on Google Calendar around, I think it was noon, right? So we should see it here. So let's go back and look at what is going on here. We've got the timer that's waiting 30 seconds, and then we are searching for a page in Notion. Which page? We're passing the page ID from over here, the page that we just created. And that way we've given it time to now grab all the extra details that we've created. The dates, the starting time, the end time, the content of the page, all that stuff. Next step, we are using Google Calendar, and we're doing some data validation here. So we're searching for an event that contains the page ID in its description. And if it is found, then we stop. So we have this filter here, and the action is continue only if no is the Boolean operator for is this event found. So basically we don't want to make duplicate events, which would be very, very useful if you had a two-way sync, because I did have a little bit of a two-way sync going and it was just creating infinite events because there was this loop. So we're just making sure that is the case, that it doesn't already exist. And if it doesn't exist, now we add an event and we're pulling all of these pieces from Notion. The page name, we do page content, and I'm doing -page ID. That way we get the unique page ID from the Notion event, specifically the Notion database page, in the description of the Google Calendar event. That way, when we do data validation later on, we can search for that page ID. And if I go here, look at that, video test event for P. Diddy, there it is. If I go in here, I have meet with P. Diddy to discuss my personal finance rap album, here is the page ID from Notion. It is sent to Google Calendar, so now we can search for it when we're doing our check to make sure the page doesn't already exist. And then we wait 30 seconds. And the last thing we do, and this is kind of future-proofing for myself, is grab the event ID from Google itself, and we send it back to what we've created here. So now this wasn't here before, Google event ID is here. And then we also have one for updating events. So with this script, we have the trigger being an updated item in Notion. Again, not possible in Zapier right now, so that's why automate.io is my choice. We're waiting once again for the details to be added to the Notion page, because I can't type at the speed of light. And then we are searching for an event that contains the page ID. If it is found, yes, we go ahead and update an event with all the new information. Keep the event ID from the original event, cool, but pass everything else from Notion. And that is how you create, at this point in time, a useful one-way sync between Notion and Google Calendar, specifically Notion to Google Calendar. So that's kind of all I have for you right now. I am heavily anticipating developers getting their hands on this API, developing some really custom integrations. I have a ton of ideas for what I could be able to do with my own workspace. But the first thing that I immediately thought of was I really want my tasks and events from Notion to sync to my Google Calendar. So that is currently possible with some caveats. If you have questions about the API, I will do my best to answer them in the comments. Again, I'm not a developer, so what I'm going to be trying to do is make some connections with developers, start building relationships in that area, because I would like to learn as much as I can about this and, influence the development of useful apps in this space. But I'm sure that a ton of people are going to be jumping on this, people who do have development knowledge. For now, though, this is kind of what you can do if you are a non-coder. You can use automate.io, and actually, if we go and look at apps here, there are a ton of apps. So you could, send data from Buffer to Notion. You could, I think Twitter is one. Let's see here. Yeah, Twitter is one. So you could add stuff from Twitter. Every time somebody tweets on Twitter who you really like, you could add all of their tweets, or maybe your own tweets to a specific database. There's a lot you can do with apps like automate.io and with Zapier. So that is going to be about it for this video. If you want to learn the basics of Notion, you can go over to thomasjfrank.com/fundamentals. That is my completely free and open Notion basics course. It goes through all of the main features of Notion. If you're watching this as of the day I'm making it, there are currently 2 of the videos live, and I got the next one coming up in the next couple of days. And if you're watching this in the future, then hopefully all the videos are live there. I've also got a Notion Tips email list, so if you want to get additional tips about how to use Notion more effectively and also get notified when I create new content, new tutorials like this, then you might want to get on that. Otherwise, thanks as always for watching. I'm Tom Brinkley on Twitter. Let me know if you have questions over there, and I'll see you in the next video.